Good morning, Norbert.
Morning.
Are you awake? Did you take your coffee already?
Yes, and actually you see my cup?
Oh my God. The eternal Bahotech.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still have 2 cups of those, so I'm quite happy.
Oh, good times, good times. How are you? You ready for having a conversation?
I am completely fine, ready.
Cool.
I think most others are asleep, right?
Yeah, well, the Europeans probably. I see Jersey here and I see a few other guys, Herbert Schulz, and so there's a few European up. Well, I mean, I'm not even going to spend the time introducing Norbert because most of the people in here know him way more than I do. And for the ones that don't know him and don't are seeing here for the first time, he's a mathematician, a logician specifically, and an accomplished programmer with manifold interests. And like to talk to him about a few things because this guy has many hats, including Tech Live. If there is a manager of Tech Live, he's probably the one.
No, it's Carl, not me.
Well, but Carl has so far refused to
Yes.
for an interview. So what I would like to do, Norbert, is start out where that other interview that you gave to TUG stopped. And
that's a long time ago.
Yes. And I'd like to tell us what brought you to do this trip to the Far East. It's a trip that's in the reverse order of most scientists, which come from Asia.
There are a lot of scientists in Japan. They get a lot of Nobel Prizes. I wouldn't say there are no scientists here.
From Europe and from the US?
I think it's on the same level. You can.
Same level?
Yes.
Oh, so, that's interesting. So what brought you specifically to do this trip?
That was back 2008 or something. Actually, I was thinking about leaving academics completely and working full-time as mountain guide because I'm also a professional mountain guide. And at that time, Professor Ono from the JAIST here, close by where I live, invited me to come over and work as associate professor there. And that was, of course, tempting. I mean, in Austria, that was always, or in Italy, you always have every 2 to 3 years, you have to write project applications to fund your own salary and all this kind of stuff. So, and that's the reason I thought, I work as mountain guide, it's easier. And then, the option to go to Japan, at least for a few years, that was interesting, yes. And of course, I thought a lot. I wasn't that young back then. I'm much older now. And I thought about, I'll just move into a completely... I have been here before. I mean, I've been in 2006 and 2007, each 1 month for research work here. So I knew what to expect. I thought I knew what to expect. And that was more or less the way I came here. So it was for work, for university work.
Uh-huh. You are on a new job these days, is that correct or not?
Well, since 2016. In 2016, the JAIST decided in the spirit of internationalization that they throw out all foreigners, besides those in the English department. That was especially very much welcome because in the very same month my daughter was born. So it was a good coincidence to go into unemployment in Japan with a newborn child. And then after about 5 to 6 months, I joined the company in Tokyo in the research and development lab. Mm-hmm. And just this year in February, I changed to Fujitsu Research. That's very recent.
Can you tell us? Do you apply logics in there? Is it complete separate parts of your lives as well, or
Well, in the previous company, it was more or less completely separate. I mean, I did nowadays what I do a lot is machine learning, right? Like most people. So there is not much logic there. Now within Fujitsu Research, I'm working on neurosymbolic AI. So this is something where my logic background and well, TCS background is hopefully merged with work in machine learning. So that's.
So does Fujitsu support basic research, or is it fully applied?
Well, basic research, I would say they want, of course, return of investment, right? In some sense. No, they do really. They do. I mean, they support a lot of research in a lot of areas. So really, also basic research. Of course, you have to always argue. But I know several people doing this. Actually, from February when I joined till end of March, Fujitsu Research was a separate company. It was like only for research, and it was just merged. Everything is rebuilt currently in Fujitsu, so it was merged into the main company directly under the top officials. But yeah, basically it's the same. There is a lot of research going on. Of course, I mean, it's company research. You cannot expect doing whatever completely esoteric things. You have to at least explain why it is useful for Fujitsu, right? And the stuff I do since 30 years, my research, my personal, I just continue in my private time.
Are they still heavy on computing and
yes?
I remember, when I started my computing life, and my first laptop was a Fujitsu laptop, and I would only go with Fujitsu. And I don't see them in the market these days, but
they are still in the market with hardware. But well, it's of course so within Japan, but also in Europe, in several places, there are big companies who only work with Fujitsu machines. There is a lot of service, especially public service, so from the state, from the government, from local governments, where Fujitsu is very strong here. So yes, it's still a big company. I mean, cool. Worldwide, like in America, Europe. So they have so parts are in Sunnyvale, in Madrid, and in London, and a few more places in Asia, I guess.
So let me change directions a little bit and ask you about something that always intrigued me. You seem to have a lot of interests in other open source material. I mean,
not only open source.
Let it put aside mountaineering. Let's put aside mountaineering, and which we can enjoy by going over to your blogs and your website and so forth, and see pictures of stuff that I would never be able to visit in my own lives, but they're amazing to see. But you seem to have a lot of interest in open source software outside tech.
Yes.
Where does that come from? Is it a political? Is it?
Good question. Most of the time, I guess, I come around these projects because I'm not content with the current state and I want to fix it. And that simply works with open source quite nicely. And it doesn't work well with any other source. So that is most of the time one of the big driving forces of me getting into something. So, for example, one of the recent projects is this smart speaker. With FOSS Asia, we're developing a privacy-aware smart speaker and personal assistant. That's software that runs on a Raspberry. You can talk to it, you get answers without Google or Amazon registering everything. It's just because I'm so fed up with Google and Amazon because they're so stupid. I have devices in every room, more or less, because my wife likes to talk to them and my daughter and get music back. Most of the time it doesn't work out. So there are things I want to fix, and then open source projects are nice, right? And yeah.
So there is a personal need for make something work, and there is also because I sometimes stop by your blog and your webpage, and when I see the description of the projects you're involved with, I get tired only from reading them. So long it is, and so long.
Yeah, but for example, the biggest one I recently got involved is the KDE Plasma desktop for Debian, because I was so fed up, because in Debian it was horrible old, it was completely outdated, and nobody did the work. And I mean, it was like 2 years back, and it wasn't really work. So I said, well, then I do it myself, right? And I did it first all myself, without the team outside of Debian, just for my own. I made all the packages, this 300, 400 package, all for my own. And because I wanted to have an up-to-date, recent, properly working system. And then other people started to use it, and well, it took 2 years, and now, well, hopefully it's now much better shape in Debian. So that was a lot of time I took just, but it's most of the time that I'm just not content with the current state that I start to fix things then.
But tell me one thing. How do you juggle this all? Do you get home and work until midnight and
no, no, I normally get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
And how do you find time? How do you, for example, tell me how many hours you put in on Tech Live, for example, every week?
On Tech Live, not that many anymore. It is, I mean, there were huge peaks in 2017, 18, 19. But since then, it has steadily decreased, like what is necessary. I mean, bug reports are getting less and less. Also, new feature requests are getting less and less, right? So there is not so much to do anymore. The daily grind work of updating packages is mostly done by Carl, unless Carl is on holiday or somewhere, then I do it. But I mean, also this is mostly automatized. So things we are doing, Carl and me, is more or less trying to get everything work as far as possible automatically, because at the end, it's just a lot of repetition. And so we try to, I mean, it's just emergency fixing for problems. Like, when was it recently? 2 weeks ago, when the GNU-PG key again expired and one part wasn't updated. And so these are the things I wouldn't say that I put in Tech Live more than 3 to 5 hours a week currently. That would be a lot, actually, I guess.
So you consider it to be in steady maintenance mode right now? Yes.
At the moment, I mean, there are several things I started working on, but I never could convince myself to finish it. We see the Tech Live, also because there was never the need for it. Yeah, so that's, I would say, the current. So as I said, I mean, Carl puts much more work in it, right? I mean, the daily update of packages is mostly all due to his work.
Which involves taking the package and installing the package and
yes.
Well, but this is a lot of things.
Well, this is also 95% automatized, right? I mean, we have written several scripts that automatize all these updates and unpacking and repackaging and running LaTeX and everything, so that at the end, a package for TDS, Tech Directory Standard, comes out. But this is like mostly, it needs a big work for new packages or very special packages, but this has to be only once done for new packages and not permanently. So it works quite nicely at the moment.
Wow.
I think we got a guest.
I got a beautiful girl over there. Who is she? What's your name? What is your name? Can you tell me your name? Huh?
She's Haru.
Haru. Wow. What a beautiful name. How old are you?
Well, yes, say.
Oh, five. That's nice. Nice.
Say bye-bye. Bye, Jutta.
Bye.
Shuriken mottete. So that is standard nowadays, even with company meetings. That is little. No, Hannah, onegai.
Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful that one can integrate this way.
It sounds beautiful, but in reality, sometimes I wish I could go to an office, because concentrated work is harder when you. That's the reason what I told you before. I get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, because then I have at least 3 to 4 hours of peaceful work.
Yeah, but how long do you take to commute to work and commute back?
I don't commute since 2016. I'm fully remote.
Fully remote.
Fully since 2016, so long before Corona. So
long
even in my
Corona.
previous, because my previous company was in Tokyo, and I'm not in Tokyo, so I don't want to move to Tokyo. I'm actually on the other side of the island. So with the previous company, I visited the company like Hana onegai. Ne, ima dame. So with the previous company, I went once, twice a month for Tokyo. And now with Fujitsu, I would normally also go once, twice to Tokyo. But I mean, with Corona, everything is shut down, no traveling. So,
so it's unimaginable that the Tokyo subways and metro are empty or not being used at the moment, but
they are used, of course. They are completely filled, of course. I mean, they are not completely full. I don't know, but I guess many people still have to go to work.
Cool. So since our conversation depended over to programming and tech live and so forth, I mean, what can we expect? Can we expect coming down soon? What can we expect down the year?
I think nothing considerable changes. No considerable changes in the next years. I think the biggest change over the next at some point in the future will be looking at 64-bit Windows, I guess. That is something I tried to support, but I gave up because it's too much. And so that would be something that lots of people are asking for, and within the Japanese community, actually, this is quite because due to the large fonts of often 32-bit Windows just runs out of memory. So there seems to be a problem with huge CIT indexed fonts. So especially if you load several, of them for different stuff. So there is some need for this. That might be something that comes in the future at some point. We don't know actually how. Maybe we just drop 32-bit and only work with 64. But I mean, there are a lot of people who still say that they want to keep 32-bit. And the problem is really, that is hard work. The most painful part of the code are the special cases for Windows. And duplicating and making this work for 32 and 64-bit platform from Windows is a challenge. And I think I've started 3 or 4 times. I have still branches in my Git repository somewhere, but they never realized. Also because with Fujitsu, I started to have to use Windows nowadays, but I myself, I hardly don't use Windows. It's hard for me also to test things.
Well, since we got into the subject, let me ask you another question. So the Gartner Group estimates that more than 80% of the world shipping of operating systems right now do not run TAC. A situation which is
Gartner said this? Really? Wow.
Yeah, this is like 15 years ago, we didn't have Android. We didn't have iOS.
But we have TUG running on Android. That's not the problem, right?
Well, we do have some sort of tech running on Android, which is a proof of,
it's not integrated at the level you would like to see it. I agree, but
it's not that live. That's what I want to see. But that's something.
Well, actually, there is some Chinese don't they have some application, something where they actually? I'm not sure. Well, the problem is with the security obligation of this. I mean, it's actually getting more and more complicated, even on Macs. I remember 1.5 years ago, it was a discussion: can we actually install TUG Live going further, because Apple removes interpreters, locks down installation. It's getting harder and harder. I mean, if people want to use hampered and devices controlled by big companies, then please go ahead, yes. But it's getting more and more difficult by volunteers to support this.
But do you see a time that it's going to be difficult to acquire a machine that you'll be able to install, an operating system on it and be running with?
No, you can always install Linux, right?
Well, as I said, the situation in 15 years ago was such that every single operating system that was shipped in 2000, 15 years ago, every single operating system shipped ran TUG. And with iOS and Android, the situation is such that they kind of run TUG, but it's not the kind of TUG you want to use. And so it's if you really with a tablet, on the couch, and you want to do some TUG.
Yes, I completely agree. I mean, but that, I think, in principle is a question of developing a nice user interface. I think with Android, at least maybe, I'm not sure. I use Android, but I'm just a dummy user. But I guess with a rooted device, you can do everything. The question is how to interface with that, right? You want an application where you can just type, you can run. I mean, you want to Emacs, right? Your tablet, right? Well, not the whole Emacs, but what you want is you want to edit and kick off compilation from the edit screen and automatically switch to a PDF viewer. Yes, that would be nice, right? But that is something an Android application developer has to provide, right? This is not something. I think the actual code, the binaries, are something you can compile on Android. I think there are several projects compiling it for Android, and iOS should be also. I mean, we have binaries for Mac OS, and so it's not easy compiling for a different hardware architecture. It's not that trivial, especially with with Apple just throwing blocks at developers. But in principle, this should be possible, right? It's just who is doing it, right? I mean, it's the lack of expertise, right? We had some people who could do this, but I mean, they also have their private life or whatever. As long as nobody steps forward and say, okay, I know Android, I can develop an Android, and I'm also pro open source. I'm writing an Android application that I don't sell and or just offer, then it won't happen. Always like this, you have to have the interest and fix it yourself, right?
Right.
What I said
before. I guess so. Yeah. There's somebody said that if you want something done, you should do it yourself. I don't know exactly who said that.
And since my phone is small, I won't run Android on it, because typing on this is anyway a pain with my clumsy fingers. So in talking about that, which puts me on a parallel track, is there anything that you think it should be done with the TUG Live on the distribution streams, if you run TUG Live from Ubuntu, you get something which is like 5 years old, and if you get TUG Live from Solaris, it's 12 years old. So okay, now there are a few things that would be great. So the biggest problem at the moment is that packagers are stupid, unfortunately, we have to say. There are too many, and I'm allowed to say this because I'm also a packager, right?
Okay.
and I answer all the questions on the TL distro list about how packaging. So the problem is most of the packagers are not really users of, as I've seen this often, not users of TUG Live. They just want to package it without really understanding how stuff works. I agree, this is complicated then and leads to disasters. We have seen too many times. I also agree that the installation of TUG Live is not trivial. It could be, so why? Because everyone is expecting configure, make install, ready, right?
Right.
That is what a lot of people are expecting, and whatever. I mean, it could be CMake and then make or whatever. So there are a lot of options. So there we are far away from that. That is something, I mean, the compilation, the binaries, that can be made like this, but then a lot of handwork, I mean, not a lot of handwork, but a lot of stuff. I mean, you have to merge the main tree with the build binaries, then you have to link some binaries. And so it's not completely trivial. That would be something that would help, and that has been requested a few times, that would help packagers and distributors to be more up to date, easier to include. Of course, there was the proposal from some in the group to switch to a different build system, like whatever, Ninja or CMake, which is a nice idea, but nobody has ever come up with an actual replacement of the current system. So that it's also a problem that the build system was written by Peter, who unfortunately passed away. So we have a serious lack of, because none of us, I mean, I can do AutoConf, and Carl, of course, is a AutoConf guru, but none of us, I mean, this build system is quite involved. So yes, there are some things for distributors that can be improved. I agree. There is, if I would have time, energy and interest, but for Debian, I know how to package it myself, right? And and for the others, I mean, I cannot care for others; they have to learn. It would be nice if you provide an easier way, like make, configure, make, install, and everything works. That would be nice. The problem is often with the splitting of into, because it's so big, right? I mean, we are now at several gigabyte, and most distributions split it at some whatever borders, right? And the problem is then if you split it, you have to take care for whether formats and font map files are properly installed or not, or activated. And if they are activated but not available, then you get errors. And these are the stuff. I actually talked about this, I don't know, during FOSDEM or something, how to package it. Yes, I agree. There are things. The problem is that the tech system as a whole is, I mean, the whole packaging is, I mean, not the whole packaging, the whole way how things work is quite old. I mean, this format util-conf and update make-conf. I mean, over the last 5 years, I have worked that we can use multiple of them, which makes it already much easier for distributions to ship file and users to add additional fonts and this kind of stuff. It still isn't perfect, and it doesn't work for all kind of settings. So there are things to do to make it easier for distributors. But for example, if you say Ubuntu is not that far behind. The problem is with the release schedule of Ubuntu and TUG Live. Also, the release schedule of Ubuntu Debian on TUG Live doesn't line up. And that means there's always at least 1 year behind.
Yeah.
But 1 year behind, it's often only the binaries and what they say, right? In Debian, for example, we did the last checkout from the CTAN, also from the telnet in, I think, December, right? And that it was going into Bullseye. So the status of December 2020 is going into the next release. That was more or less the last cutoff date before the freeze, right? So it's not that old, of course. Well, then there are 2 years where this distribution is frozen, more or less, and then you cannot update beside critically. But on the other hand, now be honest, most people only have update ETs, right? They want to get updates every day. It's not that they need it. I mean, I guess
people don't.
99% of the TUG documents run even on a 5-year-old TUG Live installation, is my guess.
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
So it's just, why do I have TUG Live 2019 in Ubuntu? No, it's so old, and then they want something new. Not that it's really needed for them, right? But okay.
Well, I'll tell you something. I mean, this interview is not me interviewing myself, but I'll tell you something. An area that does require, update of all the binaries. We have we're working with with submissions by people that are submitting to proceedings of a conference, and working on continuous submission, so that they deposit their files on Dropbox and they write their books and write their papers on Dropbox or on Overleaf. And on Overleaf is not a problem. They write it completely within Overleaf, and we use the Overleaf environment. But for people which prefer to use their own tech on their own boxes, on using Dropbox, for example, I mean, the very big problem, initial problem, we tell them, you have to update bibliotech to the latest bibliotech. Otherwise,
well, that's true. You're completely right. Of course, there are some areas, bibliotech Beaver is one, where you want newer versions. I agree completely, right? But honestly, I write also a lot of TUG code, but I still haven't used biblatex for any of my documents, right? So
you should. You should.
Yes, but I have all stuff in a bit.bib file, and I'm just too lazy to start using it because it works in any way. So.
All right. This was so nice. Tell me when we're going to see you again in person at Bahotech.
At Bahotech, well, that would be nice. But Bahotech is always when, I told you before, when there's one of the 3 holidays in Japan. This is this Golden Week, which means that it's one of the time when I can make holidays with the family. And so I would have to go.
This little girl can run everywhere. And
I would have to convince my wife that she wants to go once more to Bahotech. She was there once, right?
Right.
But I mean, for her, there is not so much sightseeing there, right, around Bahotech. And then there are a lot of freaks there.
That's right. I mean, bringing a companion to Bahotech involves leaving them at Warsaw for a little while, so that they can have some fun at Warsaw.
Yes.
And then exactly. I mean, I think this is the best way. Well, I miss you. I miss seeing you in person. I miss this nice conversation.
Traveling.
Yeah, but and hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, well, I don't know when the next conference is. I hope the next TUG will be in person. That would be the biggest chance, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, Context is planning a conference for next month in person in Belgium.
Yeah, no way. No way that I can go.
I don't have.
I hope that I can go in December to Europe. That would be my dream. But yeah. The problem is, I mean, Japan is quite strict with quarantine when you return from abroad. So that's. So, for example, you are not allowed from the airport, you're not allowed to take public transport home. And that means I have to drive a few hundred kilometers across the whole island to an airport, leave my car there and drive home myself. And then I have to stay at home for, I think, 10 days or 2 weeks without leaving. It's already better now, because before you had to stay in a government decided hotel without leaving the room for 10 days. Yes. Now imagine being with a 5-year-old daughter locked in a room without. That would be quite funny.
Well, but the conditions in Japan are extreme. The island is small, the population is huge. Cities like Tokyo are humongous, and so it does need some pretty tight controls. Otherwise, things will. I mean, you see what happens in Brazil and what happened in India when you don't control.
Yeah. No, I'll see. Let's hope. In December, I hope to again go to Europe, and then Pachotech would be really nice. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
My morning coffee is most of the time in this cup.
All right. Hope to see you there.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, and enjoy a lot the conversation. And we're gonna continue this at some time.
Yes, sure enough. Also on the social platform which we are using anytime.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time. Bye.
Bye.